this certainly has been the worst in my lifetime. We've had a huge rally because governments everywhere have printed and spent staggering amounts of money. But David, it just means the next time it's going to be worse still. Unless you think we'll never have economic problems and market problems again, the next one's going to be worse because the debt. David, in 2008, we had a problem because of debt. Since then, the debt has skyrocketed everywhere in the world. So unless you think we're not ever going to have problems again, then the next one's going to be worse, unless you know something I don't know. It can get worse. People say it can get worse. Throughout history, go back into the 19th century, we just use America alone. We've had some staggering economic difficulties at times, but Europe too. Some of the largest banks in the world went bankrupt in previous economic hard times. Some companies that people never thought could go bankrupt collapsed. Don't think it cannot happen. It has happened, and it will happen again. 6 months ago, the United States, I'll use the U.S. again, was the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. Never had anybody been so deep in debt. David, since then, the U.S. has increased its debt by trillions, with a T, trillions more. If you give me a few $1 trillion, I will show you a very, very good time. We will all have a wonderful time with a few $1 trillion. But David, somebody eventually has to pay the price because somebody has to worry about paying it back. David, it is these days are not good for old people. They are not at all good for young people. Even you, you're not old, you're not too young. I have young children. Oh my gosh, America's leaving them a terrible, terrible legacy, which they're going to struggle with all their lives. But right now, there's an election in November. Everybody wants to be reelected. So they're doing everything they can to be reelected, but it is leaving a very, very bad aftertaste. That's probably what will wind up happening. It has often happened in history. At the moment, first of all, whenever there's a problem in the world, people look around for an easy way to solve the problem. Once upon a time, there was a guy named Marx, Mr. Marx. Mr. Marx had a wonderful theory, and many people accepted it and tried it for a long time. Nobody believes in Mr. Marx anymore. We found out it didn't work. But right now, there's another one called More Money Today, MMT. Give me some money, more money, free money. Well, everybody loves it. So many people are starting to try it. Nobody's saying it out loud, but the British are doing it. Some people, Japanese are doing it. So we're going to find easy ways. Politicians always find easy ways. Will it work in the long term? As I said, David, being a young person in America right now is not a good thing to be. Well, it's usually something we're not looking at. It's usually some small company or small country that gets into trouble and then things start snowballing. Even if you go back a few months, December and January, markets in some parts of the world were already starting to have problems. And then along came the virus and popped the bubble. It usually works that well. We don't have a worldwide epidemic. But, actually, I take that back. We have had worldwide epidemics before, but never before have politicians reacted the wrong way. In 2009, David, we had the H1N1 virus in America. Well, they didn't close McDonald's. They didn't close the airports. This time, for whatever reason, politicians and academics and journalists seem to have overreacted and said we have to close the whole world. We've had many epidemics. Never before have we closed the whole world. So in my view, they made mistakes, and that's what has made this so horrible. But we had a lot of debt as well. And so now we have more debt. And next time around, that huge debt is going to leave us all with worse problems. The printing presses are running at unbelievable speed. Every day, the Bank of Japan goes to work and cranks up the printing presses. And as he said, we will print unlimited, that's his word, unlimited amounts of money. That's happening all over the world. I mean, if you get into trouble, you just call up and say, help me, help me, help me, save me. And somebody comes along and saves you. No, we haven't had any gigantic problems yet, but the debt is building up everywhere. Maybe I'm wrong, David. Maybe this time is different. Maybe the world has learned a solution so that it is different this time, but I doubt it. At the moment, the U.S. dollar is going down, so that means somebody's selling it. But most countries in the world, I anyway, I wonder all the time about where to put my money. And I don't find any place that's really a great alternative to the U.S. dollar at the moment. The pound sterling, forget it. The euro, maybe temporarily. The Chinese currency, yeah, but it's blocked, so you can't do a lot there. Japan, but they have huge problems in Japan. So, David, the answer to your question is, I am looking every day for the place to put my money. I have not found a suitable long-term place yet. I own a lot of U.S. dollars, but not because it's sound. I own it because during turmoil, people look for a safe haven. Because of history, people think the U.S. dollar is a safe haven, so I own it. But David, it's going to get overpriced before this is over. Then I'll have to sell it. Could turn into a bubble. I'll certainly have to sell it if it turns into a bubble. But not yet. I mean, yeah, some money's leaving, but not huge amount yet. Gold is not a currency. I know that there are people who think it is. You cannot walk into McDonald's and buy a hamburger with gold. You cannot walk into Ginza in Tokyo and buy, unagi with gold. So, yes, I know that. I know about gold. I've owned gold for many years, decades. Gold is not a currency now. If you want to use it, go down to the shop and try to buy some bread. We always look for easy solutions when things get bad. Again, read history. It always happens. People look for something that will make life easier, and they try it. They try it. If there's a theory lying around, they say, "Oh, let's try that. Let's try that for a while." That's what more money today will be. MMT. They will try that, but in the end, everybody cannot just print money. Or let's put it this way, never in history has that worked in the long term. It may work in the short term, but if it works, eventually all currencies are debased and people have to look for something stable. Now, back to gold and silver. Throughout history, people like me have always turned to gold and silver in times like this. I mean, you weren't asking about gold yet, but David, the politicians and the academics and the bureaucrats tell you gold is not worth it. Gold is a barbarous relic. That's what they call it. Maybe, but peasants like me throughout history know that gold and silver, okay, it may be a barbarous relic, but I'm going to own it.